Hello. Welcome along to episode 208 of Adventures in Pop. My name is Simon Jacobs. You are very welcome, and you're particularly welcome if you want to subscribe. I seem to be coming nearer and nearer towards 100,000 subscribers, and the only thing is I know that you're not subscribing yet, and it's meaningless to me unless you're one of those 100,000. Who would have thought 100,000 is crazy? But thank you very much. We need to talk about the Super Bowl halftime show. We need to talk about Kendrick Lamar and everything that went on late on Sunday night here in the UK, not quite so late in America, because once again, we've covered this before in different sorts of ways. And I think ages ago, I remember getting quite excited even about Beyonce doing the Super Bowl halftime show, but this was really special. And it felt quite momentous. And once again, it's a little bit about the intersection of pop music, well, rap music, if we're being really specific, and politics. And you can imagine some of the reaction to, a black guy doing rap with an all-black troupe of dancers, and really putting across some, I would say, interesting and excitingly subversive type messages, while Donald Trump is making a big point of being the first ever American president to actually attend the Super Bowl final. So it was a big moment. Now, look, you might have seen some of the stuff on YouTube, you might have seen some of the images, you might have read about it, but boy, there's been a whole lot of coverage, and it's really interesting. So where do we start? I think, should we start with some of the facts? Okay. It was watched, apparently, by 133.5 million people. And this is the biggest ever viewership for the halftime Super Bowl. So it beats Michael Jackson, who held the record for years and years and years, by a fraction, but it is the most watched halftime show. So that's pretty good to start with. And lots of people said it was the best they'd ever seen. And a lot of other people, guess what, said it was the worst they'd ever seen. So we need to try and kind of unpick our way through that. And as I said before, I mean, Donald Trump was in the room, in the stadium. Apparently, he stayed until near the end of this show, and then he buggered off somewhere. But he hasn't said anything about it directly, I don't think. And I think it's worth bearing in mind that Kendrick Lamar, the star of this fantastic show, was going to be doing this whoever won the election in America. So it wasn't like Donald Trump won the election and then they decided to give the gig to Kendrick Lamar. He knew he was going to be doing this way before. And I guess he then had, 2 or 3 months to work out what to do in this particular situation. So those are some of the kind of the bare facts of the numbers, the kind of interest, and the fact that it definitely divided opinion, and that's really where we want to go to, because basically this is where it's split into left and right. If I'm honest, it's the MAGA crowd deciding that this was a terrible, dreadful, appalling, mumbly, useless waste of time, and that nobody would know who he was, because who is Kendrick Lamar anyway? And I think most sensible people in America, obviously that's not the MAGA crowd, finding it interesting and somewhat subversive. So let's just get into some of what happened, okay? And you will probably know some of this. I'm going to skip through this a little bit quickly, but it's dead interesting. First of all, a couple of special guests popped up in this, short period of time at halftime, to add a little bit of glitz to what was going on this big stage. And by the way, they get that stage ready blooming quickly. It takes about 5 minutes. The players have all just gone off, and this stage is getting built. So what we saw was Samuel Jackson right at the very beginning, dressed as Uncle Sam, although there's a suggestion that Uncle Sam might be Uncle Tom. And there's a rather important difference in it. So Uncle Tom being the kind of subservient black slave figure from a 19th century book, I think, and Uncle Sam being America. So some tricky things going on there. And Samuel Jackson, in a way, is taking on the mantle there of being, ironically, and there's lots of irony here, the voice of America. And at one point, shouts out to Kendrick Lamar in a quietish moment after one of the tracks, one of the songs they've been doing. He shouts out, that's too reckless and too ghetto, and he admonishes him for that and wants him to calm it down a bit. And there's something about him representing an American view that you just don't want to rock the boat. Not when you've got the president in the stadium, and just don't be badly behaved, for goodness sake. And alongside Samuel Jackson, a little bit later in this whole little montage, along came Serena Williams, of all people. And she fits in this because of the connection with Drake. And I'm sure the whole world is aware of this big, quite serious and unpleasant spat that's been going on between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And I think quite a lot of the interest that drew people into this was to see whether Kendrick Lamar would repeat his huge hit, the one that he won 5 Grammys for only a week earlier. Would he repeat this song with all of its accusatory words live on television to 133.5 million people, knowing that Drake is already threatening to sue him for defamation or whatever? So, things have got really quite unpleasant about that. Now, so where does Serena Williams fit in? Well, she apparently, allegedly, went out with Drake for a while, and not for very long, and it didn't go very far. And so here she is, on the stage with Kendrick Lamar and doing what I understand is crib walking, which I don't know what it is, but it was certainly something that people found very interesting. So Samuel Jackson and Serena Williams are there, in aid of Kendrick. And look, a few other things. If you're not aware of the whole Kendrick Lamar thing, he is a Pulitzer Prize winner. He has been doing this for 20 plus years. He's been at the top of his game, I would say, for about 7 or 8 years plus. He is really interesting. He has tried to take rap in a slightly more thoughtful and sometimes very political direction. He's not mad like Kanye. I have to say, I thought he looked amazing. There's an awful lot of interest in what he was wearing, for example. I found a whole Guardian article, I've got it right here, that has the headline, Kendrick Lamar's bootcut jeans steal the Super Bowl halftime show. I've never seen in any other halftime show a serious article written about the clothes that the person on stage was wearing. The rapper's blue-washed pair by Celine were the object of derision and lust in momentous performance. A pair of jeans worn by the American rapper and Pulitzer Prize winner Kendrick Lamar for his halftime performance commanded their own crowd online. Variously identified as bootcut, flared and well-bottomed, the pair of blue-washed jeans were the object of derision and lust. It was so special, said the writer and comedian Sophia Benoit on social media. I could not take my eyes off his hems, said another user. And on that goes. So that's kind of an interesting side note, just how much stuff has been written about it all since. He managed to get through about, I think, 11 or 12 of his songs in that short space of time, in only 12 or 13 minutes. And he didn't go to, all the biggest hit songs. And he did tease the audience over and over again about whether he is going to, do Not Like Us, the big diss track with Drake. And eventually, finally, he did, with a few careful changes of words, and managed to end the whole performance with the sign "Game Over" lit up coming up across the crowd, which I think was his kind of suggestion that, as far as this spat with Drake goes, this is a slam dunk victory. Not only did he win all those Grammys, but now in a huge stadium, every person in the stadium apparently was singing some of the key lines from Not Like Us. Drake apparently was on the other side of the world doing a gig, not wanting to engage with this at all. And who can blame him? Alongside Kendrick Lamar, he had a whole troupe of black-only dancers, and they were in red, white, and blue, and put together on the stage kind of the American flag, and then we watched it divide down the middle with Kendrick Lamar in the middle, and obvious symbolism there about a divided country. I don't think that was lost on anybody, and there was a lot in here that was really subversive. Even the very first line, I think, that Kendrick Lamar says, where he says, "This is a good time for revolution, but you picked the wrong guy." Quite interesting. And everyone in the stadium would have heard that, including the big Donald. So very interesting what was going on there. Then what I want to finally come to is the way that this was then received by the MAGA crowd and by some of the well-known, right-wing politicians in the Donald Trump inner circle, who basically, as one, took to insulting this in as many broad ways as they could possibly find. And for this, I want to give you a little bit of a sense. I want to turn to a video, actually by the Damage Report, where I felt that they really nailed this. The Damage Report is definitely worth looking at, and they do a lot of this kind of videoing. And so on this particular episode of the Damage Report, he's just basically going through his view of some of that MAGA distressing reaction to this, and all of which is entirely negative and basically, in a word, is completely racist. And that's where this whole thing kind of ends up. The intersection of pop, or in this case, rap, with politics has ended in, because America is in such a divided, polarized state at the moment, anything that goes on a stage like this, particularly as hugely into the public consciousness as the Super Bowl at halftime, it becomes a thing. It becomes a thing to comment on. It becomes full of symbolism about the state of the world as it is today, and encourages that adulation on one side and absolute hostility on the other. So let me pass you over to a few minutes of the Damage Report and just get an American view on what that reaction was actually like.
But who didn't enjoy it? MAGA, who, despite getting everything they want politically, paper straws are banned, they're still angry constantly, and they were very angry about this. So conservative commentator Matt Walsh took a few minutes away from thinking and talking about trans people to describe the performance as easily the worst halftime show he'd ever seen. Halftime show is trash. Nobody can even understand what he's saying. And the vast majority of football fans haven't even heard of most of these songs. They can't have. They're white, right? They've got to be white. Please tell me the white fans don't know who this is. And so he's very bothered by the fact that black people continue to exist, which is very rude of them considering the results of the election, but they do exist. And so in response to that, Bobby Lewis, who's one of my favorite people on Blue Sky, tweeted, "Still thinking about that beardy slice of Wonder Bread whining that 90% of the NFL audience has never heard of Kendrick Lamar. Because if there's one thing black people don't like, it's football. That's why all the players are white." Which is pretty good, see? That was funny. Matt Walsh, take some lessons. Anyway, Matt Gates says, "The halftime show you just watched is clearly the regime's response to Trump's historic gains with black men," which I love for two reasons. First of all, because it's community noted that they had planned it literally months before, but that isn't really going to matter to Matt Gates, because when Matt Gates says things, he's not assuming that it's true or accurate or really means anything. He's just making noises out of his face hole. You and I, when we say things, we want it to comport with reality. That's like important to a lot of people. Not for Matt Gaetz. But the better thing, though, is this is the regime's response. Oh, God, the massive victim complex. These guys want to be the Rebel Alliance so bad as they're the Empire. The regime, now, look, I don't like that you guys control the presidency and the Senate and the House and the Supreme Court. I don't like that all of the richest people in the country have bought you all and are now literally just unilaterally going about the government and changing what they like. But one side effect of that is that you guys are the regime now. You get that, right? You don't get to imply that you're plucky upstarts and we're going to take down the deep state. You guys have everything, okay? Own that, you doink.
Okay, I think we're going to leave it there. Very soon, just round the corner, there is a new Gold Hawk Foxes track coming out. This is called The Bad One. It's going to be out just in a few days, so I'll be back very shortly with a video and a little bit of chat about this next Gold Hawk Foxes track from the difficult second album of Gold Hawk Foxes, which is proving to be not that difficult. And if you haven't watched the entire Kendrick Lamar show in full, go and find it on YouTube. Settle yourself down and be the 50 millionth person to sit down and watch it. I did see the numbers, and it's something staggering. And when you consider that 133.5 million people have already seen it, here's another 50 million. I say, well done, Kendrick. I'll see you next time.